Recently, the grad cap wall art in Twilight has become my Roman Empire. I think about it as I fall asleep, I rise to its call in the mornings, and I am haunted by its implications as I go about my waking life. It all began when I rewatched Twilight a few months ago. When the graduation cap wall art came onto the screen, I thought to myself, I wonder if the number of caps in the frame is actually realistic. From that point on, I could not stop thinking about its feasibility. After all, the movie implies that all of the caps belong to the Cullen children. But is that even possible? Have they graduated enough times from high school or college to fill a large frame with their graduation caps? I needed to find the answers. And so, today, together, we will dive deeply into my analysis of the Twilight grad cap art piece, purely because I want my Roman Empire to crumble and fall. I've been told it only takes a day, and today is as good as any. When the phone bush turns white, that's when I'll come home. In order to determine the feasibility of there being that many caps earned by the Cullen children, I had to first figure out exactly how many caps were in the frame, a venture I thought would be incredibly straightforward. And at first, it was. It was only a matter of watching through the scene a few times to find the most ideal spot to count up a row. This part would have gone faster, but the stupid color grading made all of the caps blend together. Speaking of color grading, 25. There were 25 caps per row. But how many rows are there, you ask? And to that I say,
if it were only so simple.
It turns out that the cameraman hated the top part of the frame and refused to film it. So, I had to take matters into my own hands. In order to determine how tall the frame was, I came up with a beautiful, flawless plan that involved me figuring out how tall the wall was so that I could estimate how tall the frame could logically be. Then I thought I would use the typical measurements of a grad cap to fill the frame and establish how many rows could possibly fit into the frame, given the height. My flawless plan went something like this. Step 1. Figure out where the Cullens' house scenes were filmed. Easy. A quick Google search told me that Twilight was filmed at Hoke House, a home designed by Skylab and built on the edge of Forest Park in Portland, Oregon. It's actually really beautiful, and you should go and look at Skylab's equally beautiful website. Look at the Hoke House stuff, but also look at Skylab's other stuff. Their architecture is sublime. Step 2. Watch Twilight and find as many identifying characteristics as possible. Done. Thanks to the movie, we know that the painting is on the wall to the left of a staircase. It's on the same wall as a doorway, and it's near a unique-looking railing. Step 3. Figure out where in the house this scene was filmed. Using the unique features from the previous step, I combed through available pictures of the Hoke House and pulled out images near where the frame could be. From this venture, I was able to conclude that the frame is on the top floor of the home, which I can tell because all of the other pictures show side by side upstairs and downstairs, but there's no upstairs in the Twilight scene. From this, I can reasonably conclude that the frame is hanging on the wall on the top floor of the home. And, given these blueprints of the house that show it is 3 stories high, it's on the 3rd floor. Now, all I had to do was figure out how tall the 2nd and 3rd floors were, right? Wrong. Step 4. Rewatch Twilight and notice a new detail that renders steps 1 through 3 completely unnecessary and useless. On another watch through, I noticed that the cameraman had, I like to think unknowingly, filmed the top of the frame. It's barely there, but it's obvious that there's not another row of caps above the one filmed here, which means once we reference the other wider shot parts of the scene, that the black cap with the maroon tassel marks the top row. Given this information, there are a total of 5 rows in the frame. So, 5 rows, 25 columns, that makes 125 total caps in the frame. Let's continue this analysis by approaching this question with basic logic. Basic logic would look at the number of children in the Cullen clan, Rosalie, Emmett, Jasper, Alice, and Edward, 5 kids, and conclude that each row represents one of them. 125 divided by 5 is 25, so this logic tells us that each child would have contributed 25 caps to the frame. Sounds reasonable to me, and I could totally see Esme, who I like to think made this art piece, or at least commissioned it, collecting all of her kids' graduation caps and picking and choosing the most aesthetically pleasing ones to add to the frame. To proceed any further, though, we do need to establish a few things. First, the lowest grade that a Cullen child has been in is a freshman in high school. This comes from the fact that Jasper, Alice, and Edward are juniors in 2005 when Twilight takes place, and we know that the Cullens came to Forks in 2003, so we can deduce that they would have started as freshmen. I'm assuming that they've never tried to pass for younger than high schoolers because, well, look at them. Could they pass as middle schoolers? Methinks not, my lord. Secondly, the following math has all of these assumptions. Each of the 5 Cullen children begins as a freshman in high school, just established. They're always in high school. They never miss enough consecutive years to go off and frolic in a meadow and miss graduation and getting their grad cap. And 3, each of them graduates within 4 years. Let's do the math. 25 high school graduations times 4 years per high school graduation is equal to 100 total years. So, in order for each of the Cullens to have at least 25 graduation caps, they would have needed to graduate from 25 schools over the course of 100 years. This means that Rosalie, Edward, Jasper, Alice, and Emmett would have needed to start going to high school in 2003 minus 100 years, which is equal to 1903. That's feasible, right? Wrong! Only Jasper was a vampire in 1903. Rosalie, Edward, Alice, and Emmett didn't even transition until between 1918 and 1935. For reference, Edward, the second oldest Cullen child, was turned by Carlisle in 1918. Furthermore, Alice and Jasper didn't even join the Cullen clan until 1950. And I don't mean to assume too much, but I'm pretty sure they weren't busy creating a collection of their graduation caps prior to 1950. So, we can unfortunately conclude by the means of basic logic that 125 caps split evenly between the 5 Cullen clan kids is an unrealistic number. And that was with the assumption that they never skipped school for any significant number of years. That they were perpetually in high school or college for 100 years. But wait, Anna, what about the fact that Rosalie and Emmett were seniors in Twilight when Edward, Bella, Jasper, and Alice were juniors? I hear you. That question is precisely why we need to do the unbasic logic approach. Given everything discussed in the last part, we can safely conclude that to apply basic logic in this scenario would be a travesty, especially given how much we know about the Cullen clan's lore and timelines thanks to the Twilight Saga wiki and Miss Stephanie Meyer. So we must do Mother justice and apply all that we know about the vampiric and werewolfic world she built for us preteens who sought to be understood in this cruel, cruel world. Let's establish that world with a sidebar. Of the 5 Cullen clan children, Jasper is the oldest. He was turned in 1863. Next oldest is Edward, who was turned in 1918, then Alice in 1920, Rosalie in 1933, and Emmett in 1935. All but Alice and Jasper were part of the Cullen clan from the point of their transition onwards, so it makes sense to assume that Rosalie, Emmett, and Edward began going to high school approximately 1 year after they were turned. I say approximately a year after they transitioned because in the Twilight world, the vampire newborn phase is a period of time after a human transitions into a vampire, during which the vampire's desire for blood is all-consuming and at its most uncontrollable. It would be unreasonable to assume that any vampire could attend school during their newborn phase without a massacre ensuing. Thus, I infer that Edward, Emmett, and Rosalie didn't start attending school until at least a year after they transitioned. And an extremely important and influential factor in this entire analysis is that the Cullen clan, no matter where they move to, wants to stay in that place for as long as possible.
It's kind of miserable. I mean, repeating high school over and over.
True, but the younger we start out in a new place, the longer we can stay there.
This is an extremely important detail because it means that the Cullen children will start in school as young as they possibly can, freshman or sophomore year. If the Cullen clan didn't have this silly desire to stay in one place for an extended period of time, then this entire analysis would be completely moot. However, the Cullens are a silly little group of vampires, so it is not moot, and we can continue on our journey with the knowledge that each of the Cullen children earns a graduation cap approximately every 4 years, either from high school or from college. So, taking all that we established during our sidebar, we know that Edward would have begun freshman year of high school in 1919, 1 year after his transition. And before you say, well, are you sure that the months line up with the year mark and when he would have started school? Yes! Yes, I am. He was turned in September 1918, and would you look at that, school typically starts at the end of August / the beginning of September. Incredible. Moving on. 2003 minus 1919 is equal to 84. That divided by 4 years in school is equal to 21. Now, we do have to shave off 1 cap because Edward took a little vacation from his family to explore Calling to Kill Humans from 1927 to 1931. So, that leaves us with a total of 20 caps. 20! That's not 25! And Edward is supposed to have the most grad caps out of all of the Cullen kids. And that's not even accounting for the fact that Edward probably didn't attend school for all of the years in his vampire life. And to those of you that are refusing to accept these conclusions and are thinking, well, maybe he started as a junior or senior a lot of the time, to that, I raise you the Cullen clan core belief.
But the younger we start out in a new place, the longer we can stay there.
So, even if Edward began as a junior or senior, graduated, Esme got her little grubby fingers on his grad cap, and he went to college afterwards, the Cullens wouldn't move until they absolutely had to, which, lore tells me, is approximately every 8 years. Edward wouldn't be going to a new high school or college until the Cullens moved again. So, your argument makes even less sense in this court of chaos. Begone, wench! Now, what about the other Cullen kids? Rosalie, 2003 minus 1933 is equal to 70. That divided by 4 is 17. Emmett, 2003 minus 1935 equals 68. Divided by 14, it all rounds to 17. Jasper and Alice, 2003 minus 1950 equals approximately 12 caps. Altogether, Esme would have collected a maximum of 78 graduation caps from her children. That is 47 caps less than the number of caps in the frame. 47 is such a large number of caps to just have on hand. And that's not even accounting for the number of caps in Breaking Dawn Part 1. That's right, the caps make a reappearance in Breaking Dawn Part 1, and they're nothing like what they used to look like. I know for a fact that all of these caps are fake. They're not even in the same colors as the original art in Twilight. And don't you dare try the color grading routine on me. Screw the color grading. Those are all different caps and you cannot convince me otherwise. I mean, do you see all of the tan caps? It's a completely different color palette than the original. And it's altogether a different frame. What the All of this is to say that there is no way the Cullens earned another 125 grad caps between 2005, when Twilight takes place, and 2006, when Breaking Dawn Part 1 takes place, in order to fill this frame. It's impossible. So I can't help but come to the conclusion that all of the grad caps in both of the art pieces are not real. And that's assuming that there's only 2, because at this point, it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that they replace the hats in the frame every year. After all, given the evidence, that's what they've done. I was so hopeful that the number of caps in the frame would make even just a little bit of sense once I completed this analysis. Alas, the lives of immortal creatures continues to be an enigma to us mere mortals. I can only be disappointed in Esme, and the Cullen clan as a whole, and partially the Twilight production team, and definitely the entire Breaking Dawn Part 1 production team for their lack of attention to detail. And for that, I will never be able to forgive them.